Alright, now it's time to get to the ones that you may or may not have actually heard of. What's up? What's happening? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Animation Station, your number one station for anything and everything animation, including a crime-solving canine and his group of friends. And today, well, group of meddling kids, I guess I should say. There we go, now I got one. Okay. And today, we are going to be taking a look at the third of the Mook animation movie quadrilogy, because we've already looked at two of them. 2 years ago, for the end of the first ever Halloween X, we looked at Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. And it's still an amazing movie, and still probably Scooby at his absolute peak. And then, last Thanksgiving, we looked at Witch's Ghost. That was my special Thanksgiving review. And while that one wasn't super in-depth or anything like that, I do pretty much agree with all the thoughts I said in that video, so I'm not gonna just redo it all over again just to be analytical, when it's just going to be the same conclusion. So instead, we're going to start where we left off in that review series, and we're going to take a look at the next of the Mook animation movies. Say hello to Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders. Sorry, I'm trying to cover the bottom because this is a double pack, but yeah. Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders is today's review. And this is one I remember loving as a kid. I had the original VHS tape. It even had a special little Courage the Cowardly Dog episode packed in with it, and it was a pretty freaking good one. It was that King Tut ripoff episode. Sorry, I forget the name of it. It was the one with the ancient pharaoh and the curses. That's a pretty great episode. And not only that, before the movie even started, they also had this special little bumper right before the movie started, if you bought the VHS version, where it actually advertised to you to stay after the movie to watch the episode. Unfortunately, in recent years, I've sadly lost my childhood VHS tape of Alien Invaders, and it's a huge bummer, because that was one of my favorite movies of my childhood. So, now, thankfully, in recent years, I've been able to find it again. I did get a double pack, but it was more, actually this was more my mom's doing. She was out in the store one day, she saw we didn't have Alien Invaders anymore. So, she got this. And yes, that means I own 2 copies of Zombie Island now. Oh well. But, Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders, before I even get into the analytical stuff, I'm just gonna say right now, this is a great Scooby-Doo movie. Yes, it's not as great as Zombie Island and Witch's Ghost. Absolutely not, it's nowhere near there. But it is still a great film in its own right, and this is still going to be a very positive review. Even though this movie has one big issue. Stay tuned all the way to the end with the written review to find out what that issue is. But until then, let's go over the plot synopsis. It's pretty lengthy, but it's not as lengthy as the one from, what was it, Ghoul School? Ghoul School. It's not going to be as lengthy as Ghoul School's, so this one shouldn't be too lengthy, but still, sit back, grab some popcorn, grab a drink, and let's dive into Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders. And I'll tell you all about why this movie is so great. At the South Station, Max, Laura, and Steve suddenly get a loud reading that's off the charts. When it disappears, Steve gets something on the radar. The mystery machine, meanwhile, is driving through a desert. As a sandstorm kicks in, Shaggy accidentally makes a turn onto government property, and a subsequent sighting of a UFO causes Shaggy to lose control of the vehicle and crash into a cactus, pretty much putting the mystery machine out of commission for the whole movie. Which, yes, is a bummer, but it also gives some, it gives some possibilities for different plot scenarios. I'm sorry. Mystery Inc. find themselves on the outskirts of a small town, while Scooby-Doo and Shaggy stay with the van, not wanting to travel through the dark. They fight over a Scooby snack they manage to find. Shaggy and Scooby then encounter a fictional animal called a jackalope, and they chase it down to the mouth of a cave. And when they do, they see a glow in the distance. Then 2 aliens approach them from behind and chase them towards the diner that the rest of the gang has stopped at, in the town. So they ended up in the town anyway, but It was just by getting chased. Oh well. Shaggy and Scooby run into the diner in panic, claiming to have seen the aliens. The diner waitress, Dottie, says they've never seen the aliens, but see strange lights and hear strange sounds at night. The chief, Sergio, pronounced Serge, says that a month ago, local cattle vanished overnight without a trace, and a lot of people moved away. I feel like that's a reference to Destroy All Humans, where you can, pick up cattle in your UFO. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. That's just immediately what that makes me think of. I immediately think of Destroy All Humans. Really great game, by the way. Check it out. A man named Lester, the crazy Ralph of this movie, claims to have been abducted once before and believes them. He also says that he has pictures. The gang goes to his house to see them, but they turn out to be nothing more than landscape paintings. Really nice paintings, but they don't really do a good job proving his case. Lester then offers to let the gang sleep there for the night. Daphne and Velma sleep in the bunk bed, and Fred sleeps on Lester's couch, while Scooby and Shaggy decide to sleep on the roof. Because they're out of room. And are abducted by the aliens. Scooby is the first to see the same two aliens they ran into from earlier and wakes Shaggy up. The aliens then touch Scooby and Shaggy's forehead while the two of them panic. The aliens buckle them to beds. The aliens then put wires on them, which tickle Shaggy and Scooby. Scooby manages to break free from the buckles and runs with Shaggy's bed while the aliens pursue him. The whole running in circle thing you see in this movie's trailers. Eventually they are trapped, and a third alien comes forward with some sort of alien taser, which causes the two to pass out. The next day, the two find themselves in the middle of nowhere. They are awakened by a hippie chick photographer, Crystal, and her golden retriever, Amber. Scooby and Shaggy fall head over heels in love the moment they lay eyes on them, and Crystal and Amber give them a ride back to the diner. I'm just going to say this right now, and I'm probably going to say more about it in the written review, but the love story in this movie with Crystal, Amber, Shaggy, and Scooby is absolutely freaking adorable. It's one of those relationships that is well built, it takes some time, and you can understand why Shaggy and Scooby immediately fall for them, because Crystal especially is dressed the way, Shaggy is, the whole hippie kind of thing. And yes, it does make the ending a lot more sad and hit a lot harder, which I feel like also works to the movie's advantages. I'm not going to talk about the ending until, the actual end of the plot synopsis, but it's a pretty sad ending. But the love story itself is, while brief, very, very cute. And I love this relationship, and I really wish that they would bring Crystal and Amber back. Even if it was just for a little cameo in one of the other Scooby-Doo movies. Kind of like what Happy Halloween Scooby-Doo did with Red Herring. Just saying, the offer's still on the table, Warner Brothers. Please do that. Scooby is making more moves than Shaggy, because Scooby and Shaggy are not exactly experienced in romance, so they're kind of just being awkward. And it's delightfully, charmingly awkward. They meet the rest of the gang there with Lester, who catches on to them being in love. They were so smitten that for the first and only time the pair have no appetite. That's interesting. Usually, always in a Scooby-Doo movie, Scooby and Shaggy always have the biggest appetites known to man. But because they're so head over heels smitten in love with this girl that they just met and her dog, they are not hungry. Instead, they want to impress the girls. And you know what? It's cute. It's a neat little switch up for Shaggy's character, trying to, get Crystal to, in a relationship with her. You know what I mean? It's really hard to try and say it without a script, but the point is, the love story is adorable. All the scenes that the four of them have together are adorable. I'll just leave it at that. When Crystal and Amber leave, Shaggy and Scooby get all washed up for when they can see them again. They go to a mechanic and they ask him if he can fix their mystery machine. He says he'll look over it. Then they meet Max, who works at the South Station. They help him load up some oil. Crystal and Amber drive Shaggy and Scooby off to go looking for the jackalope. And Shaggy decides to use cologne he found in a restroom and tries to spiffen up his hair. Again, it's a really unique change for Shaggy's character that actually really works to the movie's advantage. Shaggy tries to make the jackalope seem bigger, but to no avail. Scooby picks flowers for Amber, who gives him a kiss. Oh. Scooby rejoices greatly. When Shaggy tries the same thing, a spider gets in his shirt and freaks him out, but Crystal is still impressed. It's just so adorable you can't help but smile. Velma, Fred, and Daphne, meanwhile, meet the crew of the South Station. Velma becomes suspicious when she sees dried mud on their boots, since they are in the desert. Later, she decides to take the gang to a canyon where she presumes a river might run. The canyon proves to be dry, but they find mining equipment, and in the caves, gold. Meanwhile, military police make Shaggy, Crystal, Scooby-Doo, and Amber leave the area as it's government property. Crystal then tells Shaggy she is really a government agent and not a photographer. She wants them to go back in. Shaggy and Scooby aren't sure, but when they use their charm on them, they agree. Amber licks Scooby's cheek and he just laughs. And then Shaggy leads them to the cave where he first saw the aliens and saw the jackalope disappear, and they quickly hide inside when the MPs come back, but are able to trick them into leaving by pretending that Scooby's tail is a snake. That's a good joke. But then a real snake scares Shaggy and Scooby into going further into the cave with Crystal and Amber close behind. They also discover the gold, but are then found and chased by the aliens and the MPs, along with the gang also being chased. The gang gets trapped in a net while Scooby and the others fall off a ledge after being cornered by the MPs, supposedly to their death. Yeah, this movie's not afraid to throw in a little dark humor. After the aliens send the MPs after them, it's revealed that the aliens are really the South crew. They hold them hostage as they explain that they stumbled upon this cave when searching for ground to place another South dish. Since it was on government land, they decided not to report it, and plan to keep it that way. They are also revealed to be the aliens who abducted Scooby and Shaggy. The UFO was nothing more than a dressed-up helicopter, and the UFO interior was a movie set. Meanwhile, the others wake up and find themselves deep in the cave, still close to yet another ledge. Yeah, I'm just gonna talk about this right now, even though I talk about it more in my written review. The mystery of this movie sucks. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The mystery of this movie is bad. Because it is really easy to figure out. The perpetrators do a horrible job of trying to actually hide their involvement in this situation. And it's all just too freaking easy to figure out. Because the dried mud on the boots, the way they act all casual and slightly off when they're talking with the Scooby gang in the station. Like, it's too easy to figure out. Yes, I understand that kids are still the main demographic of this series. I get that, and that's their main aim. Almost every single time they make anything Scooby-Doo related, it's usually to entertain kids first, and maybe entertain adults second. But even then, I mean, the mysteries of Zombie Island and Witcher's Ghost were really good on top of that movie being great on its own. Like, both of those movies were great by themselves, and they had great mysteries to go along with it to keep the audience guessing. Heck, I'd say the twist in Witcher's Ghost is probably one of the best twists in the entire franchise. You know, the whole thing with Tim Curry's character. Sorry, I forget his name. Ravencroft, that's his name. The whole twist with Ravencroft is really, really good, and something that you wouldn't suspect if you're watching it for the first time. Whereas with this, I'm sure even a kid would be able to figure it out in 5 minutes. Like, as soon as they meet these people and see the dried mud and see how they're acting, like, it's too easy for kids to figure out, and it's insultingly easy for adults to figure out. So, yeah, that's the biggest problem with this movie. The mystery itself is terrible and way too easy to figure out. But it has one great twist. Let's talk about it. Where are we? When the MPs show up, Shaggy and Scooby try to protect them by doing kung fu moves, and the MPs aren't afraid. Naturally. Crystal and Amber then scare them off by revealing their alien selves, but give the boys the credit. Pretty much revealing to the audience that they are the aliens, that there is still real monsters in this Scooby-Doo movie. It's just a change of pace that the monsters that are good, well, the real monsters are actually good this time, whereas the real monsters in Zombie Island and Witch's Ghost were, well, demented and evil. Here, they're actually good. It's a really good change of pace. It's something that you don't expect to happen. And then it also is going to lead to one of the most sad endings you're going to see in a Scooby-Doo movie. Not sad as in, like, it's a terrible ending that ruins everything. No, sad as in what happens with the characters and the relationship. Which really is a bummer, but it also kind of makes sense. The MPs come running to the crew, but when they all see it's Scooby and the others, they send them back. This time when Shaggy and Scooby do the kung fu moves, the MPs grab them and threaten them. Yeah, the villains in this movie are homicidal. Yeah, like I said, they're not afraid to throw in that dark humor. At least with these earlier movies they're not, whereas with the new ones, they're too freaking scared to do anything dark. Boo. We'll talk more about that when we get to the really bad ones. Crystal and Amber then reveal their alien selves to all of them and scare the MPs off. Shaggy and Scooby didn't see the change, so when they turn around and see them, well, they run off thinking that they're actual aliens here to kill them. The Self members then tried to capture them, and as danger draws near, Shaggy and Scooby come to the rescue and defeat the bad guys and realize that Crystal and Amber really are aliens. Crystal and Amber explain that they're aliens from a planet 20 light years away from Earth, and that they have dressed and acted the way they did because they had gotten their information from Earth on a TV and radio program from the 1960s. Which explains why Crystal is dressed the way she is, in her human form. And assume that the people of Earth still talked and dressed like that. Also, it turns out that the UFO that ran off the gang off the road near the beginning of the movie was actually Crystal and Amber's ship, which the South had actually tracked. Crystal and Amber have to go back to their home planet, but they share a heartfelt goodbye with Shaggy and Scooby. Yeah, pretty much saying that a relationship can't happen. And it's sad when it hits you. I can only imagine how it must have made the kids sad. Like, seeing this whole relationship develop and blossom throughout the whole movie, only to pull the rug out from underneath of them just to say, this can't happen, they have to go back where they came from, and Scooby and Shaggy are left alone. It's a very sad end to an adorable love story, and it makes the ending hit even harder. So, props to the writers and props to the team for really giving their all for this ending. And the whole twist of the movie, it's unexpected and it's great. It's sad, but it's great and very well done. The South agents are arrested by the authorities, and Buck comes by with the mystery machine all fixed. Buck explains that the radiator patch he put on will hold until they get to the city, and charges them $30. I mean, you wish it was that cheap nowadays for something like that in real life, don't you? Fred and the gang are happy that the van is finally fixed, and as Fred gives Buck the money for the repairs, he questions the mechanic on why he was out in the desert the one day. Buck, though obviously very reluctant, reveals to Fred and the girls that he has a hobby of collecting pressed flowers. It's cute, and it does show that while Buck is a bit of a, soft-spoken, very quiet, tough guy, he still has a heart, and he has a personality. He just hides it under a facade to try and stay tough to everyone else. But it's still cute. Which was why he was out in the desert. He was collecting pressed flowers. Fred and the girls are surprised to learn this, but note that the flowers Buck collected as very beautiful. Buck explains that he prefers keeping this particular hobby of his a secret, and Fred and the girls agree not to tell anyone. After Buck leaves, Daphne notices Shaggy and Scooby staring up at the sky, obviously still sad about Crystal and Amber leaving and pretty much taking their whole future with them. Fred and the girls feel bad for Shaggy and Scooby, but they help the duo feel a little bit better by giving them an extra box of Scooby snacks that Scooby and Shaggy missed way earlier in the movie. The gang then drive away just as the jackalope watches them leave and then looks up in the sky and sees a shooting star pass by, hinting that maybe, just maybe, Crystal and Amber have already started making their way back. That's the story to Alien Invaders. The mystery's terrible, but the rest of it is very well done. The writing's still really good. I love the love story, even if it has a very sad ending. And it's very entertaining all throughout. It's still funny. It still keeps true to everything that makes Scooby-Doo Scooby-Doo. It just adds some new elements to it, and the twist with Crystal and Amber being the actual aliens is a really good twist that almost makes up for almost how bad the freaking mystery itself is. Okay, let's talk about the voice cast, and unfortunately this is one where I have to get a little sad again. So, let's talk about it. It's a pretty small voice cast, but a few names you might recognize. So, first up we have Scott Innes as Scooby-Doo and Shaggy, Casey Kasem having left after, I believe it was Witch's Ghost? But yeah, this is the first time Scott voiced both Shaggy and Scooby, because I think Scooby was voiced by someone else in Zombie Island and Witch's Ghost, so definitely shows a bit of a change there. And then we have the late Mary Kay Bergman as Daphne in her final role before she sadly took her life. It was sad, and I honestly didn't even know it until someone in my comment section in my written review pointed it out. And it's sad that really happened, and she was a great Daphne. In all the movies that she was a part of, she was a great voice for Daphne. Like, you guys know how much I really enjoy Grey DeLise Griffin's portrayal of Daphne, portrayal of the character, but Mary Kay Bergman was still really good as the character. She brought this nice adult edge to her. Not in a way that feels forced, but in a way that feels like, you know, she's not a little kid anymore. She's not a teenager anymore. She's now a full-grown young adult trying to, you know, continue doing what she does. And Mary Kay brought a lot of that to the screen with her performance. And it's sad that she ended up taking her own life. And I only hope that she's resting in peace up in heaven, wherever she is now. Sorry, I hate getting dark, but I had to point that out, or I was going to get comments about it up the rear end. Then we have B.J. Ward as Velma. She's excellent. Arguably one of Velma's best voices. Then you have Frank Welker back as Fred Jones, yet again. He still voices Fred in pretty much everything to this day, except for, I believe it was a pup named Scooby-Doo, where they got someone else to play him, because, you know, in that show he's a kid. And in Scoob, where they replaced him because WB are morons. Then we have Jeff Glenn Bennett as the voice of Lester. He's really good, but like I said, he's very much the Crazy Ralph of the movie. If you've seen that character in the Friday the 13th movies, he's pretty much the same thing here, just more kid-friendly and not able to say stuff like, you're gonna die here, or yada yada yada. Because it's still a kid's movie. Then you have Candy Milo as Crystal. She does an amazing job with the voice performance, and I really hope one day she gets to come back. She does a great job. Then we have someone that you may or may not actually know, Mark Hamill, in his, I believe, his first ever performance in a Scooby-Doo film. Because I don't think he was in he was in Zombie Island. He was Snakebite Scruggs in Zombie Island. This is his second one, because I don't think that he was in Witch's Ghost. But yeah, here he voices Steve, and it's Mark Hamill. He does a great job as always, even if I don't like the character. Then there's Audrey Wazalewski. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. As Laura, she's okay. Then we have another voice you might recognize, Kevin Michael Richardson. Yes, that Kevin Michael Richardson, as the voice of Max, and he does a good job. I mean, it's Kevin Michael Richardson. When does he never not do a good job? Then we have Jennifer Hale back again. I believe she was also the voice of the main Hex Girl in Witch's Ghost, so this is her return to the role. And she's also the voice of Amber, but she's the voice of Amber and the voice of Dottie. And she does a great job in both. I mean, it's Jennifer Hale. She's a great voice actress. There's a reason why nowadays she's voicing Bayonetta. Like, there's a reason. Outside the stupid legal bullcrap. And then finally we have Neil Ross as Buck and Sergio. And he does okay. I feel like he could have done a bit more with the characters, but the characters didn't really get that much screen time, so I can't really... They didn't really get a chance to fully make their characters have like an arc or whatever. They're kind of just background characters, but I did like his performance as Buck. He did a really good job there. And then, I guess since we're already 25 minutes in, let's talk a little bit about the songs this time around. First up, we have the classic Scooby-Doo theme. In the last movie, in Witch's Ghost, it was performed by Billy Ray Cyrus, and in this movie, it's performed by Jennifer Love Hewitt. And then we have two original songs for this movie. We have How Groovy, the love song that Shaggy sings while he's thinking about Crystal. And sure, Shaggy's voice isn't amazing vocal-wise, but you get the sentimentality and you get the emotion. Not to mention, you get some pretty nice animation that throws back to the classic 60s show. They even redo that old intro, and in the middle of it, Shaggy checks his watch, speeds off, and the rest of the gang is like even the ghosts that stand behind him like, is that supposed to happen? It's pretty funny. It is a pretty funny scene, and I do enjoy it. And that whole song, while, again, not great vocally, is really cute, and it has a nice charm to it, so I don't hate the song. I think it's actually pretty good. I just feel like it could have been longer. Just my thoughts. And then we have The Aliens Are Here, which I think is them trying to recapture that same magic that they had with Terror Time again with the Sky Cycle tracks, but it doesn't really quite work. It's a little too simplistic, and while I do like the instrumentation in the background, I just don't think the vocals really work all that well. It sounds a bit weird to me. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on the songs. I really like the cover of the theme song, even though I think the one in Witch's Ghost by Billy Ray Cyrus is still better. I really like the How Groovy song. It's not great, and I think it could be better vocally, but it's cute, and you understand its sentiment. And then The Aliens Are Here is fine. It's not terrible, it's just fine. It's them trying to recapture the magic they had with the Sky Cycle tracks from Zombie Island, and it didn't really quite work. And then we'll talk a little bit about the production. After Warner Brothers pushed their own writers on Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost, the crew was allowed complete freedom on this one. Very rare when they ever give their teams complete freedom nowadays. Glenn Leopold is credited for writing the story to get the residuals he lost on the previous one, although he did suggest the American Southwest setting and the jackalope. Okay. How many facts and trivia are there? Oh, there's a good bit. You know what, screw it. Why not? Let's do some trivia. This was the first film to be released simultaneously on both VHS and DVD. Usually it would be, VHS and then DVD like a year or so later. But this one, they dropped both versions on the same year and the same time, so yeah, that's a first for the franchise. Hollywood actress Jennifer Love Hewitt performed the theme song. The track was played when Shaggy and Scooby are being chased. This is sometimes incorrectly referred to as the first Scooby-Doo production of the 21st century. In fact, it was released in 2000, which was the last year of the 20th century. This film brings back the crooks wearing masks gag as the main element, whereas it had been done as a minor plot for more focus on real monsters in Zombie Island and Witch's Ghost, as well as the 80s TV movies. The supporting characters instead turn out to be good, real, inhuman characters. Essentially good monsters, a first for the franchise. Movie-wise. I'm not sure about TV show-wise. I haven't watched the entire series in a very long time. Although there have been a couple of other instances of Shaggy going on a date with a girl and having a girlfriend, this movie marks the first time Shaggy actually falls in love and debates the possibility of a serious romantic relationship with Crystal. Shaggy daydreams the musical sequence of How Groovy, another main movie track performed by Scott Innes, and where Shaggy and in part Scooby-Doo, where he kisses Crystal on the lips. It's cute. He does, however, get a real one near the end of the film, making him the first main character to get kissed on the lips. Scooby also gets kissed by Amber. So, yeah, that's a cool little thing for Shaggy fans. And again, bring Crystal back. Let them have that relationship. Like, come on. Alien Invaders is notable for being Mary Kay Bergman's final performance as Daphne. The film is dedicated to her. And then Great Elise Griffin would take over after her passing. So, yeah, Cyber Chase is going to be Great Elise Griffin's very first performance as Daphne, showing how long that she herself has voiced the character. Both Scooby and Shaggy prove ticklish when the aliens attach the wires. Steve almost says the famous, "and I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for you meddling kids" line, but as soon as he comes to meddling kids, he is ordered to be quiet by an officer. They always find ways to make gags out of that. This was the last Scooby-Doo animated production made using hand-painted cells. All subsequent productions, beginning with Cyber Chase, were animated digitally. Which is why Alien Invaders and Cyber Chase look so different when you compare the two, despite the fact that Cyber Chase is not a What's New movie. It's the final movie of the Mook animation, but it's a different kind of Mook animation. The first three were all done with hand-painted cells, which gave them that texture and very unique style that you see in these first three films. And then with Cyber Chase onward, they went full-on digital with digital cells. Which is a bummer, but I mean, you have to evolve at some point. While nowhere near as dark as the previous films, there are dark tones unique to this one, in particular the concept of characters being experimented on, and this demonstrates Self's high immorality. Okay. After the end credits, Scooby scares the audience by wearing one of the alien costumes used by the agents. That's a cute little final ending gag. Burger King's Big Kids Meal line came with toys to coincide with the film, although none of them actually had anything to do with the film. It was based generically on the original Scooby-Doo Where Are You TV series. The commercial also had Fred, Daphne, and Velma animated in their original clothes instead of their updated looks. Okay. The Alien expansion for the Scooby-Doo expandable card game included cards with images and characters from the movie, and the way Scooby and Shaggy crash through a billboard is similar to TJ Busby's car wrecking one in Scooby-Doo Meets the Boo Brothers. One tooth is left until the one TJ Busby drove into completely knocked it down. So, yeah, I don't know if that was a reference or just a weird coincidence, but yeah. And then, of course, we have the pop culture references. There were 3 Chihuahuas released, with 2 of them parodying the theme song from X-Files. Okay. The opening of the film is similar to Star Trek Next Generation. The soundtrack during the scene has the same rhythm and meter as Remember Me, the original series theme for Star Trek, which makes sense. The movie's sci-fi theme makes sense. Self, Search for Alien Life Forms, is a reference to SETI, which stands for Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. This is the collective name for a number of activities people undertake to search for intelligent extraterrestrial life. SETI projects use scientific methods in this research, so it's a reference to real life kind of thing. When Shaggy says, "Hey, come on guys, don't you need to phone home or something?" he references E.T. A similar reference occurs in the lyrics of Aliens Are Here. Tropes from the Men in Black franchise appear in the film, from real government conspiracies to aliens disguising themselves as humans. And the film featured developing ideas about gender expression and identity. Buck reveals that he collects flowers, Dottie strongly asserts her opinions about Rebook, and women protect Scooby and Shaggy from harm. So it's, in a way, a bit of a girl power movie, but it's not done in a way that it's obnoxious. I'm looking at you, terrible scene from Avengers Endgame. Like, I'm not so. Yep, there's that. That is facts, that is trivia, that's production, that's voice acting, and that is the story. Now let's go ahead and just finish off with the plot synopsis before I end up going over the 40-minute mark, which I'm trying not to do, but I'm so passionate about this film that I had a lot to say. Since we've already covered Zombie Island 2 years ago and Witch's Ghost last year for Thanksgiving, it only makes sense to continue this marathon with the third of the 4 movies of the Mook animation quadrilogy, Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders. After the mystery machine breaks down in the middle of the desert, the gang finds themselves stumbling upon quite the interstellar mystery. And as for Scooby and Shaggy, maybe something more than that. Now, the reception of this movie has been a bit mixed over the years, as some have praised it while others have bashed it mercilessly. Toon Grin probably being the most well-known example, putting this movie in his top 10 worst list. As for me, I once again fall into the side of the fans. Alien Invaders is a great film. Sure, it's not quite as great as Zombie Island or Witch's Ghost, but it's still great nevertheless. The 2D animation is great and still beautiful. The voice acting is fantastic. The story is still really good. The characters are excellent. The jokes are hilarious. The alien designs are really cool. I really like the fake alien designs, and the actual designs for Crystal and Amber as aliens are also really cool. The music is great, as a collective, not one by one. The runtime is solid, the pacing is good, and the love story is adorable. However, this movie has one huge problem. The actual mystery itself is terrible. The villains are easy to suss out, the motivation is discovered pretty quickly, and they do a horrible job at trying to actually hide their involvement in it. Yes, I understand that's still primarily made for kids first and foremost, but that's still not an excuse. Especially when the past 2 movies had much more well-built mysteries, and were still great in their own right. Even despite that problem though, this is still a pretty great film. Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders is a charming, cute, and funny adventure that's guaranteed to entertain pretty much all ages. Sure, its core mystery is complete crap, but the adorable love story and the laughs all throughout more than make up for it. I definitely recommend it, just don't be prepared for it to try and rack your brain like the past 2 films with its mystery. Final verdict is an 8 out of 10. A high 8 out of 10. I love Alien Invaders, I've always loved this movie, and I'm glad I finally have it again. Even though, again, I still wish I had that VHS tape from my childhood to put next to Zombie Island and tomorrow's review. So, yep, that's all my thoughts on Alien Invaders. I really enjoy this movie. I definitely fall on the side of fans with this one, and I won't understand why people bash it so much. But as it is, I still think it's a great film, and if you haven't checked it out yet, definitely check it out. It's not one of the greatest Scooby-Doo movies of all time or anything like that, but it is still a great movie and a lot of fun to watch, especially around this spooky time of year that we are currently in. Well, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And my prop is buried under there. I'll get it later. And stay tuned, because we're far from done. We're only on the 5th day of 31, so we have a long way to go with our favorite mystery-solving canine. So join me next time when we take a look at how the Mook animation era of the franchise concludes with Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase. I'm hoping it's as good as I remember it. See you later, guys. Have a Scoob-tastic day.